everyone. Thanks for joining us for another edition of Texas Insider TV, brought to you by the Texas Alliance of Energy Producers. I'm Jim Cardle. Texas State Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller is in his first term as Ag Commissioner and hails from the city of Stephenville, where he previously served in the House of Representatives from House District 59. As a former chairman of the House Ag Committee, a founding member of Donald Trump's Ag Advisory Committee, he is also a former world calf rope champion. An eighth-generation Texas farmer and rancher, Sid Miller's got his finger on the pulse of agriculture and how it impacts our Texas economy, and we're pleased to be able to visit today with Texas Department of Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller. Well, Texas Department of Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller, appreciate you coming by. Thanks for joining us today.
Good to be with you, Jim.
I know you got a busy schedule today. I want to respect your time and jump right into it. Last time, Commissioner, you were here, you were somewhat new to the job and had talked about a background of exactly what the Department of Agriculture does. I remember you saying that Texas agriculture, whether people realize it or not, impact us all in some way, shape, or form every day. Give us a little background on the Texas Ag Department.
Well, most people have no idea what we do at the Ag Department. Everybody thinks we're cows, plows, and sows, and we do all of that. But we're a lot more.
Okay.
However, agriculture is very important to the economy of Texas, second largest industry in the state, $115 billion created a year to our economy, 1 in 7 jobs.
Really?
We lead the nation in many categories: agriculture exports, cattle, cotton, wool, mohair, horses, hay, etc. So, a big part of our economy. But we're also, people don't realize, we are the Consumer Protection Agency for the state. So we do check all of the scales in the state. You think of them at the grocery store or where they weigh big trucks, but it's more than that. It's at the airport where they weigh your luggage. It's Starbucks
Okay.
where you buy a pound of coffee, yogurt shops, barbecue places, mail houses, pharmacies, you name it. We are the agency that checks all the barcode scanners in the state. A lot of people don't realize that. We regulate all the pesticides, both agriculture pesticide and structural pesticides. We have a bank, Texas Agriculture Finance Authority. We're in charge of rural health care for 177 counties.
Really?
Biggest program we run, a $5 billion program, is in nutritional programs for the federal government and the state. So 5 million school meals each day. That's our job to oversee that program. Summer feeding programs, Meals on Wheels, adult feeding programs. During Hurricane Harvey, we're the ones responsible not only for helping coordinate 74 animal shelters and providing the feed and hay and water troughs, but we're also in charge of the USDA commodities and getting food to those shelters where people were rescued. So we're a pretty busy bunch, and that's only scratching the surface of it, because we have over 130 different statutory functions, including marketing Texas products.
I was going to say I'm going to shut you down here because you're listing so many important and critical things there. But you mentioned the hurricane, and hadn't thought about that per se, but because it's been a couple months now. Talk about, though, real quick. There certainly was an impact on Texas agriculture. What are you facing, if anything, still today, and what was the impact?
We have our numbers in. It's over $200 million. Most of that, probably almost half of that, was loss of livestock, mostly cattle.
Okay.
About a fourth of our cattle production is in that area of the state.
Really?
The other part was the cotton. Sad part about it, a lot of the cotton had been harvested, was in the modules or the bales. A lot of it sitting at the cotton gin.
Mm-hmm.
Farmers hadn't been paid for it, but it hadn't been gin. So Harvey came through, and either the wind tore the bales apart, or they just water soaked and they rotted. So we're dealing with that. Crop insurance doesn't really cover that. It covers losses in the field. So we're working with our new Secretary of Agriculture, Sonny Perdue, to try to get some adjustment on that and help those farmers out down there.
Okay. You mentioned Sonny Perdue. That's my next question, per se. When you were last in, Commissioner, you mentioned that the greatest concern and the greatest attacks that the typical farm rancher Texan in the ag industry was facing was in fact from our federal government. I know you've been involved in the Trump election. We'll get to that maybe in a question or two, but I suspect you've seen some progress on some of the things that you were working on when it comes to attacks on the farm and ranch community from the federal government. What's the prognosis?
Well,
there?
of course, when I took this office over, the biggest threat to the American farmer, or the Texas farmer, was overreaching federal government. I was suing the EPA and the Corps of Engineers over waters of the U.S., fighting the BLM. They're trying to seize 90,000 acres of farm and ranch land on the Red River without any compensation.
Really?
Fighting the IRS and the Fish and Wildlife Service and all those three-lettered, federal agencies.
Yes, yes.
On November 8th, I just started smiling. All that stopped. There's waters of the U.S. is gone. It's not a problem anymore.
Which had to do with creeks and almost arroyos and dry
Right.
beds.
Making if a cow track
Held
ran water off, it was considered a navigable stream and regulated by the federal, and you'd have to get a permit. So it would have made it impossible for farmers to continue farming like they are. But that's gone.
Okay.
Thanks to our new administration. We just won the lawsuit up on the Red River on BLM, so that's gone.
That was a federal land grab, I believe, is the way you described it.
It was a federal land grab, 90,000 acres, no compensation to farmers and ranchers up there. Taking it all off the tax roll too, by the way, which would have hurt our school districts and counties up there. We're winning again. We had about a $500 billion trade deficit with China. Of course, our president's over there just announced they're buying $200 billion worth of stuff from us now.
$200 billion.
Yeah, so we almost cut the trade deficit in half with China in one trip. So it's outstanding. Since Trump has been on there, we're now selling beef to China, first time in 14 years. We've never sold them rice. Do you know how much rice 1,300,000,000 people eat? It's a lot. So they could eat all of our rice in 13 days.
Really?
So we're exporting rice. They're taking natural gas from us. Our credit card and financial companies are allowed to do business over there. On and on and on. So we're doing great. It's been really great. Vietnam just announced, and Taiwan, they're buying $57 billion worth, and it's mostly agriculture commodities. So the trade deficit is falling, and it's falling rapidly. Regulation, was talking about federal overreach. The president said in one of his executive orders, he said, all right, Congress, every new regulation you enact, you're going to cut 2. Well, that hadn't happened. For every new regulation that they've enacted, they've cut 16.
Really?
But that news is not getting out there. So it's a great day if you're for smaller government and less regulation and cutting the trade deficit. We are winning again.
Well, let's talk about the Donald Trump administration. I know you were a founding member of his Ag Advisory Committee. You were a frequent spokesman on some of the major television and news sources. And you mentioned all these significant, no way you can deny that, trade agreements. What have you heard as you travel around the state of Texas, or maybe around the nation, with your hard work in other states as a leading ag commissioner? What are you hearing on the ground in terms of people's feeling about this country right now? Well,
I think, of course, if you can just look at the numbers. Last quarter, I think we created 261,000 new jobs. Quarter before that, I think it was 16,000.
And that is in and of itself is a fact.
Huge.
Two consecutive quarters of growth you're talking about
Right.
there.
So our country's back on track again. The average per capita income is up, is growing again. So we're getting America back to work. We're getting quality jobs back. We've got we already have companies planning on returning to the United States that have offshore, just because of the new tax plan that's being proposed. They're preparing to come back.
Really?
I read the semiconductor, a $51 billion company is moving back to the United States just because of their tax rate is going to be dropped. They can actually do business here cheaper than they can offshore. So I think it's going to be great. President doesn't get a lot of publicity on that kind of stuff. He gets more publicity on a controversial tweet or something like that, or he's a very unusual guy, but it has been fun working on the campaign with him, being a surrogate speaker and being on those conference calls every morning on the campaign. So it was a very exciting time. I was really honored after the election, kind of taken a little bit by surprise, to be asked to go to Mar-a-Lago and interview for a cabinet position, specifically Secretary of Agriculture. So, just to be considered was quite an honor. It was the last one they interviewed for it. It was a month before they announced their choice. I'm not sure that I could have got by the nomination process, just to be honest with you. But a little bit like Trump, kind of controversial a time or two. So I'm not sure I passed the background check, but that's fine. I love Texas and love what I'm doing here.
Well, we're glad to have you here in Texas, that's for sure. Folks, I want to thank you again for joining us for this edition of Texas Insider TV. We're talking to Texas Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller, a former House member, as a matter of fact, from 2000 to 2012.
That's correct.
And let's just wrap up, if I can. You mentioned the tweets and the tweeting, but I noted before you coming in, Commissioner, you've got 634,000 plus Facebook followers. You've got a daily radio ag market announcement that comes out that people can go. And I should mention that everything for Sid Miller is millerfortexas.com.
That's correct.
How does somebody like the Texas Ag Commissioner garner over 600,000 Facebook followers? You've been obviously tapping into something.
Well, we're very active, kind of like Trump on Twitter, except I do Facebook. So I think in a week's time we'll have 2 to 3 million people engaged. We're people come to us to get their news and the real information out there, and not the fake news. And we have the real information, hard hitting stuff that they're looking for.
2 to 3 million
a week.
Facebook, Twitter, YouTube.
Mostly Facebook, but
really?
some Twitter.
Okay.
I looked this week. I think we had over 700,000 view our videos. So we're very active. We get the message out there. I'm not shy about it. We put up 100 to 150 posts a week. Every once in a while we stub our toe and get in the news for messing up a little bit. But since I've been in office, we put up probably 40,000 posts, something like that. So it's a good way to get your message out to the people.
Let me ask you one final question, and it's an issue that was not a concern this legislative session, but the previous one. And as we're moving into the winter here, we're getting a little bit different weather, but it's the status of our waters. I think you have mentioned before that agriculture is the second largest user of water. There's been some bills. How is the state of Texas doing in addressing its water issues?
Well, it's odd that you'd bring that up. Actually, agriculture is the largest user of water in the state.
Okay.
We're also the most efficient user of water in the state.
Really?
Because it costs us money. It's probably the single highest input in production agriculture if you're in irrigated crop production.
Okay.
So when I came to the department, we didn't even have a water department. We didn't even have not one employee, even though we're the largest user of water in the state. It was dedicated to protecting rural water. Research Institute there, part of A&M University. He had water projects on every continent on the globe. So we're very engaged, and we're looking out for rural water interests, but we're also working with municipalities. We're promoting rainwater catchment system. No one else statewide is doing that.
Okay.
So our cities spend hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars on stormwater drainage each year, which is a liability. We're training them to turn that into an asset, to capture that and use it. Landscape irrigation, municipal water use, clean it up with carbon filter and use it for drinking water. It's pretty clean to start with. So we've got to start thinking outside the box and doing things different.
Well, good job on that. And again, I want to congratulate you on your Facebook and your social media for the Texas Agriculture Commissioner. That's quite an accomplishment.
I want to announce that I'm definitely running for re-election. Have over 100 solid Republican leaders, grassroots leaders, have endorsed my campaign already. We'll be releasing another batch of endorsements soon, big league endorsements. So we'll be looking forward to that, see who's on the second list.
Nationwide, maybe, I
That's
suspect
right.
you're referring to. Well, Commissioner Sid Miller, Texas Department of Agriculture, up for re-election. Best of luck there. Appreciate your hard work on behalf of Texas.
Thank you, sir.
Folks, we appreciate you joining us for this issue of Texas Insider TV, brought to you by the Texas Alliance of Energy Producers. Be sure and check out Commissioner Sid Miller at millerfortexas.com. And don't forget, you're either an insider or you're not. I'm Jim Cardle. Thanks for joining us.